So as we work through these exercises together, one of my goals is to help you get comfortable with the pencil in your hand, with the idea that this drawing and sketching is a process, and that we're actually more interested in the process than we are in the final result, although the final result can bring a lot of satisfaction, and it can be a lot of fun to look at what different people do with the same tools and the same ideas. And that is part of the joy of design and exploration. So I'm going to start with a really simple exercise where I want you to divide your sketch paper into 4 quadrants and start in the upper left quadrant and draw a very simple freehand square. And I want you to start in the upper corner and using a simple diagonal stroke, I want you to just draw a series of lines across the face of the square to create an even gray shade. Now, often when I'm shading, I will use this basic stroke, this basic diagonal stroke, to apply an even shade. And one of the reasons I'm not going all over the place doing this is because I'm wanting to represent light here. And if I start drawing it like so, if I start doing this to get my shading, what I'm drawing is texture, not light. So the nice even pencil stroke in a gradated manner is a way to get what we call a wash of shadow or shade, or even representing in black and white, even representing maybe a color. It's a very simple application. Now, when I started, my pencil was pretty much a straight, sharp point. By the time I'm done with this, I have a slight wedge on the end, and that's a natural occurrence, and I use it to my advantage because I can get nice broad strokes of the pencil. I do have a tool here, a stone, that I can use if I want to scrape the pencil to get an even sharper wedge out of this. And some of your sketching kits will come with a sandpaper block, and that's what the sandpaper is for also. Now in the next quadrant, I'd like you to draw a freehand circle. Not looking for perfection, just believability. And then do the same thing. Okay, draw a nice even shade of gray with even strokes diagonally across the surface. The tooth of the paper is very fine, but it holds the lead, it pulls on the lead. And that's part of why when we draw like this, we end up with that chiseled surface I was talking about. And you'll notice that your pencil strokes tend to evolve as you do this, as the point of the pencil is worn in more of a chisel. And it's great because you can get these nice, broad, shaded strokes, and they go on very evenly. And one of the key points of this exercise is just to help you get comfortable with the idea of shading. So let's go ahead and draw a bit of an outline around this guy. Just practice our line work. Again, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for relaxed, confident strokes. Same on the square. Not looking for perfection. Now, when I draw lines, you'll notice often that I will put an emphasis at the beginning and the end, and that is old school architectural drafting. It was beat into me as a young student. All right, in the lower quadrant, I want you to draw another square. This time, I want you to start in the upper corner, black. And I want you to try your hand at creating what we call a gradated shade. And that is, as we come across the surface, we're going to lighten up our pressure such that by the time we get across the form, we're almost white. You can go back and you can emphasize more and build it up, but by the time you get to the other side, I want that gradation to almost disappear, okay? That's a gradated surface. Now I want you the same thing here, but with a little bit of a different approach. Another circle. Now I want us to imagine light coming across this thing, hitting it somewhere over here. So I want you to draw kind of an ellipse lightly, and then I want you to begin to draw a gradation on this thing that represents the curved surface. And it'll take a little bit of work, a little bit of doing. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for the idea of a sphere with light hitting it. Now, I'll confess that I don't draw like this very often, this carefully. This is, believe it or not, for me, this is carefully. I draw fast generally, and so for me to slow down is a bit of a challenge. But I want you to build this up such that when you're done, you have something that feels like a believable sphere, okay? There's a lot of different ways to do it. Interesting thing is, as light hits the surface that this is sitting on, it bounces up, and so the darkest area isn't necessarily opposite of where the light is coming from, because we get reflected light off of surfaces. And so if you study spheres and study shadows on spheres, you will see that they very often have reflected light in the underside. Now, once you get what you're generally comfortable with in terms of that appearance of the sphere, you can see how you can build this up as you go. I want you to draw underneath it an ellipse, something like this. A very shallow ellipse. And we're going to let that be the basis for a shadow underneath this sphere. Again, my main interest right now in doing these drawings is to help you start to, those of you who haven't done much drawing, help you start to develop some comfort around the idea of sketching, okay? So I'm actually going to put my darkest darks right in here and let it be a little bit lighter down in there. It starts to feel a little bit like sculpture as I'm going, okay? Now, just for fun, take your objects and I want you to draw a smaller square or rectangle in the surface, and then add some heaviness to the side and the top. And what do we have? Looks like a recess. Now I'm going to add one down below that has a heaviness on the lower side and the outer edge. And what do we have? A projection. Now I'll do another one over here. This time I'm going to draw a heavy shadow in the top, and I'm going to bring that shadow down and angle it to the corner. And now what do we have? We have an angled recess. On their sphere, I'm going to draw a curved line and create a curved recess. So you can see these are the ways that we begin to play with form and shape and ideas in design. And for me, it's all about trying to have some fun. Okay?